the knitting gods were smiling upon me. Hello, I'm Kristin, also known as Voolenvine, here on my YouTube channel where I chat about what I'm knitting on, what I'm sewing, what I'm making, or whatever other crafty rabbit hole I happen to be diving down this week. And as always, I'm so happy that you're taking some time out of your day to chat about those awesome things with me. And this week I am back. I'm back with quite a bit to share with you. I know I took last week off from recording. Again, life, work, when it rains, it pours, what can I say? But I do have a full-on show for you this week, so gather around, grab a cup of something, and let's get into things. But of course, I do have a few announcements to share with you before I get into all that good stuff. The first being that we have our year-long make-along that is currently underway, and that is the History Mall, where we're all endeavoring to create something historically inspired. So the idea is to choose a time period that you're drawn to, an era, and make something inspired by it. So anything prior to the 1950s, be it knitting, sewing, weaving, embroidery, as I say every week, whatever your craft is, you are so welcome to join. However, this make-along is coming to an end relatively quickly. I think we have another 1 or 2 weeks left. Oh my god, yeah, it's coming up upon us very fast. March 1st, 2021 is the deadline. That said, there is still time to join. If you choose a small project, you can certainly hop on board now. Now's the time to do that. But there are 2 ways to join. The first is to hop on over to the Voolenvine Ravelry group, where there is a thread dedicated to this make-along. All you have to do is partake in the chatter that's happening in there, share your whips, your projects, your FOs, links to anything that you find inspiring, and come March 1st, I will lock that thread and choose a random winner to win a giveaway prize, which of course will be one of these glorious handmade bags by yours truly. It is a drawstring bucket bag, if you will, that I hand sewed using this beautiful birdcage fabric and mauve contrasting fabric. It can hold quite a bit, especially a sweater project. And being that I'm the hand dyer behind Voolenvine Yarns, I will be dyeing a special colorway dedicated to this make-along. But I do also want to say, if you are not on Ravelry, you can also partake in this make-along by hopping over to Instagram. Double dipping is encouraged as well. And the same rules apply. Just share your makes on there using hashtag HistoryMAL. And I will be choosing a random winner from Instagram as well. So, guys, I'm speechless. I do not know what to say. This has been just such a fun make-along to see all the beautiful projects that you've cranked out over the year, given the circumstances with Corona times. It was just such a really happy, inspiring, and creative place to dip into and see, you know, all the excitement that surrounded this make-along. So, you know, kudos to you guys, and thank you so much for joining. I wish I could give all of the participants a project bag, but unfortunately I am one person and therefore can only give away 2. But you all did such a wonderful job, so give yourselves a pat on the back, have an extra slice of cake, pour yourself a glass of wine, because bravo, you guys are awesome. So yay, make-along coming to a close. Last but not least, this channel is sponsored by the one and only Skillshare, which is an online learning community platform where you can learn basically pretty much everything. If you want to sew a project bag, you don't have to wait to win one on this podcast. You can just sew your own. Learn to sew on Skillshare. You can learn to knit, you can learn to weave, you can learn pretty much any craft. I have been using Skillshare to learn photography and hone my skills when it comes to a small business owner. If there's something that I need to know in the moment, I can be certain that 9 out of 10 there is going to be a crash course on Skillshare for me to jump in on. So if that sounds like something that interests you, click on the link in the description box below and you'll get to try Skillshare for 2 weeks absolutely free on yours truly. You're welcome, and thank you, Skillshare. All right, my friends, this is a project that I chatted about in the last episode. I have not made much progress on it, but some progress has been made, so I guess I will share it with you. And that is my Birkin sweater by Caitlin Hunter. And it's a hot mess because, yeah, color work. And as I also mentioned, I am forgoing the baubles and instead using beads, and you can see them here ever so slightly. They're just a very subtle sparkle, and they make me so happy. I'm really, really happy with the way this project is knitting up. Again, it's very, very slow going, and for the most part, I've been a monogamous knitter up until this point, which I'll get to in a bit. But color work for me personally is very slow going. I've got to take my time, be patient, especially with this pattern, because there are several rows where you're knitting with 3 colors at a time as opposed to just 2. So I've got to do a couple of finger acrobatics. But I know at the end of the tunnel, when I'm done with all the color work, it's just going to be smooth sailing, stockinette in the round, in the round, in the round for miles and miles and miles. So I have no qualms about just, you know, kicking back, relaxing, taking my time, and enjoying the process of color work. Because while I do have to kind of rebuild my muscle memory around threading strands of yarn through my hands on both hands, at the same time, there's something relaxing about it. I can't describe it. Again, the yarn that I'm using is, for the main color, I'm using Bichai Bouche, which is a glorious heather charcoal black, and it's 100% lamb's wool, and it's oh so scrummy and soft. Lamb's wool is just it's heaven. And then for the contrasting colors, I'm using Mini Skeins by the Little Grey Sheep, all yarns which I picked up at the Edinburgh Yarn Festival in 2019, the last one that I attended. And yeah, it's just coming together so nicely, and yeah, I'm loving it. So that is my Birkin pullover by Caitlin Hunter. And again, this has just been a pattern that's been sitting in my library forever and ever. And I was just waiting for the right yarn to come into my life to finally cast on, and it finally has. So that is where I am with that. If you've been tuning into this channel for quite some time, you might be aware that I've been a relatively monogamous knitter during the course of Corona times. And while I pride myself on that, there was a breaking point. I broke the monogamy because when it comes to knitting color work, I have to focus on what my hands are doing. I can't just tune out, zone out, and watch Netflix. I've got to pay attention and make sure that I'm using the correct colorways at the right times. Anyway, you understand how that works. So I realized that I really did need another project where I could just go on autopilot, you know, be it a pair of socks or just garter stitch or stockinette in the round. While I do have some projects in the wings, believe me, I have quite a few that I still need to go through and figure out what I'm still knitting on or what I plan to just frog. Anyway, I needed something shiny and new and something autopilot. So what do? You go on Ravelry and browse and browse and browse. Long story short, I settled on the Parallelolamb by Stephen West. It's been a while since I've knit a Stephen West pattern, and I don't know why that is. I mean, I really do enjoy his patterns. They can be a little wacky, a little out there and abstract, but at the end of the day, they are just so fun to knit, and they let you play with color and just go crazy. And I think it's important to, you know, if you are like me, lately I've just been gravitating towards neutrals and traditional shapes, and this kind of relates to what I'm currently learning about photography, where when you get stuck taking the same types of photos, or when knitting, you get stuck knitting the same types of patterns, you become stagnant. You don't allow yourself to grow or change. And lately I've been gravitating towards neutral colors and mauve and greens and more traditional shapes and styles of garments and what have you. And I think it's really fun to just switch back to patterns like Stephen West or similar designers that just kind of think out of the box all the time and create these abstract fun shapes that allow you to play with color. Just giving yourself permission. Not that I consider myself a perfectionist, but I do have standards. I do have a level, a threshold, that I hold myself to sometimes. And I think it's important to just kind of break away from what I'm used to, get out of my comfort zone, and allow myself to play with colors and different shapes and just kind of set my brain free, if that makes any sense. I have no idea where I'm going with this, but at the end of the day, I cast on a Stephen West pattern, long story short, and that was his Parallelolamb blanket or shawl schlanket. He has two. One could be a throw and the other one's just a big oversized schlanket. So I cast it on. Yeah, here we are, using a medley, a melange of yarns from my stash that were just kind of hanging out, and I'm like, you know what? I like you guys together. I think you guys belong together in a project. It reminds me of the log cabin blanket, where it's a modular knit of just, blocks and strips of garter stitch just back and forth, back and forth. And while I do love the way these colors are playing together, this is going to completely contradict what I just waffled on about, you know, creativity and Stephen West patterns. I will be totally honest, I'm not enjoying the construction. I don't know why, it's just I have to constantly refer back to the pattern as to how to pick up stitches, which side I have to knit two together, or SSK. Anyway, it's a little bit more brain power than I was hoping for. Again, it's a wonderfully written pattern, very clever. It's not clicking with me. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. So unfortunately, I think this is gonna hit off to the frog pond, especially because another thing that's kind of like a bee in my bonnet when it comes to this pattern is it requires 4 separate circular needles, size 4. And as you can see, it's just, you know, which in hindsight isn't a big deal, but when I just want to sit back and relax, just having all these needles clanking around and getting tangled in my yarn, it's, I don't know, I'm not here for it really. So sadly, this is gonna hit the frog pond, and I've decided in the meantime, because I love the way these colors are playing together, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna cast on a new Granny Square stripe blanket. And you know what? That is exactly what I did. I cast it on yesterday, which I'm not gonna lie, the cast on is the worst part of this project. You have to chain 200 stitches and then go in with your crochet hook and painstakingly pick up each stitch and make a single crochet, or double crochet if you're from the UK. But I made it happen, and now it's just smooth sailing. I'm just going back and forth making double crochets to my heart's content, and it is glorious. So yeah, I'm about to switch to the 3rd stripe, and you're probably wondering about the yarn. Let me see. The first colorway that I'm using is some yarn that I had in my stash by AIMEE. I'm blanking on what colorway it is exactly, but I know it's inspired by Game of Thrones, so that was the first color that I used for the blanket. The second one is some yarn that I picked up, again, from my first EYF, I believe 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Has it been 5 years? I don't know. But anyway, this is, how am I blanking on what yarn this is? Anyway, I picked it up from EYF. It's been sitting in my stash for quite some time. So it's just this lovely peachy pink colorway, very like delicate neutral. So that's going in there. And then, let me see, and then some yarn by Once Upon a Corgi in her Lemony Snicket colorway. And it's just a very delightful, variegated green. It almost reminds me of camouflage. It's just got some nice shades of pops of green and browns and neutrals. Yeah, it's delightful. So there's that, and then I used some of my own hand-dyed yarn, Voolenvine yarns, on my Obscura base, and this is Storm Cloud, just a very kind of like neutral gray-green color, I want to say. It matches, I dyed this yarn to match my wall color, so that is Storm Cloud, because the paint is actually called Storm Cloud, so there's that. And then some Countess Ablaze. Guys, this is turning into memories of EYF, because yeah, this is yarn that I picked up from the Countess Ablaze booth at EYF, and I think, again, I'm blanking on the name of this colorway. I'm just pulling things from stash, guys, at this point. So that's going in there, and then some more Once Upon a Corgi in her Hearth colorway, one of my favorite colorways that she dyes, so that is going in there. This is some very special yarn. It was a gift, hand-dyed, using avocado pits, and it is, of course, a very stunning mauve color. So if you gifted this to me, you know who you are. Thank you so much. And it is absolutely stunning. I could not resist putting it in the blanket. So that is that. And yeah, so that is what I'm currently working on at the moment, and I'm enjoying every moment of it. And you're probably wondering, if you have been tuning into this channel for quite some time, you might recall that I did cast on a Granny Square blanket quite some time ago, a long time ago, and that has since kind of been sitting in Area 51 for quite some time. I feel like I say quite some time quite often on this channel, so I need to make an enamel pin. I unearthed the first granny stripe blanket that I cast on eons ago. So it's living in this awesome granny project bag, a wonderful gift from the maker herself, and it's living in this appropriately psychedelic unicorn project bag. It's huge. And it was perfect for housing my granny stripe blanket. And here it is. And as you can see, it is very, very colorful. Something that's completely out of my aesthetic, as I quickly realized while I was working on this. And of course, I did have the intention of making it wide enough and big enough to fit across our queen size bed. And it's so big, guys. It's so long, and I just basically lost steam on it, especially. So I essentially just gave up on it because, yeah, it was just taking forever to get through, and let's face it, this would take a whole lifetime for me to complete. And second, it's too wacky and colorful for my personal taste. I think what's going to happen is I'm just going to finish this last row, fasten it off, and gift it to one of my nieces as a scarf. You know, I think they'll appreciate it, hopefully. If not, they can just donate it. And Bob's your uncle. So yeah, that is the story of what happened to my first granny stripe blanket. But alas, a new one has been cast on, and I'm very excited. This time I didn't make it as wide. I'm just making a simple, small throw to either, take in the car when, Dennis and I go on road trips, or just chuck over myself in the morning. It's just gonna be a very casual, basic throw in colors that I enjoy. And those are my current whips, but I did manage to squeak out an FO. What? Where did that come from? This past week was Valentine's Day. For those of you who celebrated, happy Valentine's Day. Normally I don't really celebrate Valentine's Day, but ever since Dennis and I met, it's essentially our date-iversary, when we first realized that, yeah, we are in a relationship. Let's celebrate Valentine's Day together. So every year we do a little celebration for Valentine's Day. And I realized I did not have a gift for him. Not that, we expect gifts from each other, on Valentine's Day, but I wanted to give him a little something, So I pulled together my resources really quickly and realized that I had a languishing whip of a pair of socks that I was knitting for him. I cast these on maybe 3 years ago, and they've just been sitting in a project bag here in the dye dungeon, just kind of hanging out. But before I get ahead of myself, let me show you the finished objects. Here they are on 2 small sock blockers. These sock blockers are much too small for these large socks, but make it work. We'll work with what we have. So these are BRYSON sock blockers. I will link to them in the description box below, because every episode that I show off sock blockers, I get asked, what are those sock blockers and where do you get them? Description box. And the yarn that I'm using is PATONS KROY Blue Stripe RAGG, I believe. A very popular colorway amongst sock knitters. I'm sure if you are a sock knitter, you've probably worked with this yarn before. If not, it's coming to get you. But when I picked this project back up, I had the first sock already knit, that was finished, and I was up to this part right here on the second sock. So yeah, 2 days left. I would be able to finish this in no time. So the one caveat though was I was all out of this yarn, which again is the contrasting color is again by PATONS KROY. It's just a basic solid red color. So, I hopped on Amazon. Sure enough, they had it in stock and it would be able to be delivered by the next day. So the knitting gods were smiling upon me. So I panic ordered another ball of this yarn, and in the meantime worked on the foot of this yarn, of this sock. And by the next day I was able to just, thankfully Amazon delivered this yarn in the morning, and I was able to continue and finish the sock. Dennis loves them, they fit, and yay, I had a Valentine's Day gift. And that is, my friends, all the creative content that I have to share with you this week. I am gonna skip the blather segment where I chat about life stuff, just because nothing really exciting has been happening. I've been dabbling in photography, of course. If you've been following me on Instagram, I've been posting to my Instagram stories, all my street photos that I've been taking. It gets me out and I'm having a lot of fun with it. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying that. And yeah, other than that, I'm gonna end things here. Thank you so much as ever for hanging out with me. If you are new here, welcome. If you haven't already, please feel free to like and subscribe down below. I put out a video for your viewing pleasure every week. And until the next video, happy knitting, happy sewing, happy making, and I'll see you next time. Bye!